Okay, so let me just point my nose at it, and like I was saying, just keep the nose more or less level with the horizon. Now I can just cut into the collective, and it's just going to take me on a gentle descent right on there, down there to it. Lots of civilian traffic. No sign of two. That's okay though. And there goes my nose dropping as it usually does. So I'll just pull it back up, trim it out, and there we go. Still doing just fine. And fuel, I probably would have had just enough to make it back around there, but yeah, it was no big deal cutting the corner right there. No big deal at all. So I'm just going to come out here. Actually, I need to approach it from... Okay, the wind is... I'm heading directly downwind, so what I'm going to do is come around, circle around in this direction, so that I'm coming back into the wind on the landing. So let's go ahead and do that. Or I could have just overflown it and turned around. It's not a big deal in either case. Okay, so there we go. Now add a little bit of collective to level her out. And bring her on around. Now airspeed, I can cut into that quite a bit because I'm finding that in the Ka-50 it takes... I always underestimate, or at least I say always, it's not like I've been flying this thing forever, but in the last 2 missions, I've underestimated how long it takes to go from moving forward to not moving forward. How long it takes to cut into airspeed. So I'm going to plan ahead on this one and cut into it like that. And just come in slow. What is my airspeed right now? Below, okay, coming down through 40 knots. So I'm going to get into some transitional lift here, and I'm going to need to kind of pay attention to my collective to make sure that I don't get too much of a sink rate going here. And I can also go gear down. I'm going to wait for the 3 green indicator down there to the bottom left. Okay, 3 green, gear down and locked. And I'll just... Did I completely misinterpret? There's 2 just landed. Did I completely misinterpret what the wind was doing? I sure thought that looked like it was the opposite direction of what I thought it was. Okay, I'll take it like this in either case. Let me go ahead and... Yeah, like I said, cut into the speed because I always overestimate, just based on the visual cues that we get, exactly how fast I'm going. Okay, now let me stabilize it right here. Now I can just kind of gently nudge it forward. That's my radar altimeter warning going off right there. Gently nudge it forward. And I've landed a little bit short of my aim point the last few times, so let me go ahead and add a little bit of collective. Make sure I take it all the way out over the pad this time. Okay, and a little bit forward. I'm into the ground effect now, so it's very, very easy to control as long as I don't try to over-control it. Okay, stabilize it. And collective down. Okay, so there we go. That's better. I sure did misinterpret what that smokestack was telling me about the wind direction. That's no big deal. Okay, now let's see here. Let me go Shift K, get my kneeboard up, and get into the shutdown. Okay, I've gone through everything. Descent before landing, after touchdown, that's already done. Okay, ejection controls. Go ahead and safe them up. Let's go cockpit door as desired. I'll leave it shut just so that it's not too loud and I'm not shouting into the microphone as I sometimes do. Let's see here. Engine anti-ice, dust protections off. Okay, I actually enabled those for this mission, so let's go ahead and turn those off. Okay, exterior lighting, nav lights on, tip lights on. Well, a little late for that, but I'll leave everything off as I never turned any of the lights on, I don't believe. Okay, all the rest of that stuff was off. Weapon system switch off, and let's see, weapon system switch was... This is the one that always throws me, isn't it? I skipped so much time. These come out on a regular basis, but I skip so much time between when I fly them that a lot of the little nuance when it comes to procedure, I'm sort of having to relearn every time. Specifically what it's telling me when it says weapon system switch. I'm going to assume that's KO41. That's what I would assume if something told me, hey, turn your weapon system off. That's the switch that I would go to. But somewhere in the back of my mind, I think that's wrong, though. But I always catch it later on in the procedure. Okay, UV-26 countermeasure system. Let's go ahead and go off on that switch. And I can also go L-140 laser warning system off. Although we haven't really seen that in action at any point. I'm sure we will later in the campaign. And brakes set. Collective full down. Engine throttles idle. Let me go idle on the engine controls. KO41 power off. And that's where I always catch myself and have to think about what it means by the weapons system switch. And I think it always occurs to me that means the master arm switch. Possibly. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to get everything as I make a sweep around the cockpit anyway. Let's see here. KO41 Abrams power system switch off. Left engine cutoff valve closed. Okay, so let's go ahead and kill the left engine. That cuts off fuel, and then I know that I go fuel left off. Then I go engine governor switch off, and then I do the same thing for the right. Was that correct? Yes, it is. Okay, so right cutoff valve, right fuel shutoff switch, and right governor off. I'm just going to let them come on down. Okay, rotor brake on. I'm going to wait just to touch on that. Forward fuel pumps and fuel pump meter switch off. So forward. It only tells me to get the forward tank fuel pump off right there. I wonder why that is. I'll take its word. Okay, fuel pump meter switch off. That's just the fuel quantity indicator that goes off at this point. Okay, fire signal switch off. So let's go ahead and go fire. I think it's this one. It's the fire extinguisher. That's the, okay, there's the warning. And then it's going to also tell me to go extinguisher, yeah, switch off. That's correct. Okay, exterior lighting, all was already off. Hydraulic transmission group and a cran power switch off. That's the one back here. That is off and guarded. And let's see, I've got intercom, VHF, communications in other words, so I'll go off on all three of these. I'll also get the data link switch off. That's fine. And then it tells me to go into inverter, battery 1 and 2, although I know that that's incorrect. I will get the AC gens off. I will look around and see if there's anything else systems-wise that I need to turn off. And no, I think that's... I can get navigation off. I can also get... Was there not something right here? Okay, yeah, data link, data source or data, whatever you want to call it, master mode, switch off. And now I can get the inverter off. That'll kill all the AC systems to include the flight controls. And then I can go battery 1 and 2 off. And it's possible that I still missed some stuff, but that was the procedure as called out in the manual. Okay, now the rotor has spun down enough that I'll go ahead and engage the rotor brake and get that to completely stop. That's fine. And one more quick sweep of the cockpit just to make sure that I didn't, in fact, miss anything. It just seems like it's maybe just a slightly incomplete procedure, which isn't a big deal. A lot of things are just assumed that you're going to turn off. If you're the pilot and you turn something on, obviously you're going to, well, if you're a good guy, you're going to turn it off as well. So yeah, that's fine. And then there's the mystery of the aft fuel pump. It never told me in this procedure to turn off the aft fuel pump. I'm going to turn it off anyway. But yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Okay, so there we go. Pretty good mission. It kind of left me hanging there at the end when it came to giving me the mission complete signal, but I don't care. I'm going to go straight into the debrief and we'll see how we did. And now for the debrief in TACVIEW. There's really not much to go over here. I did, however, get to the bottom of why I didn't get the mission complete call or message, and we'll see that here in a little bit, but pretty standard fare. It really didn't have any surprises, other than maybe these SA-18s that are just kind of randomly distributed around the map. I believe just to penalize somebody if they happen to get lost and go one ridge too far this way, or come too far up the valley, up into the higher peaks of the Caucasus. But other than that, it was pretty much as I described in real time. Now, left-hand turn over the terrain, then left-hand turn up the valley. And I have the target area right here, defended by a single ZU-23 AAA piece. As you saw, it did get some pretty good shots off on two, but I just approached stealthily as I could at least, stand off a little bit, and get to the point where I start to take out the bunker. So that was pretty self-explanatory. Now, 2 goes into recon. He starts to pick up some of these guys with the RPGs. I think he calls in visual on the AAA, and then all hell breaks loose. So it looks like at a point, once the AAA starts to open up, then the rest of the insurgents up on the hill start to do their thing, and then it's just a firefight between the guys going into the town and the guys up on the hill. Now, I see all this stuff going on, and from the cockpit, you really don't see or understand half of what's going on here. Hopefully, it looked a lot more comprehensible with the TACVIEW and the external views as long as they lasted in the mission as it played out, but I had the sense of this exact picture, but I didn't see exactly where they were. In particular, this group. I never picked these guys up at all. And I believe this is the reason that we never got the mission complete call, is because I never saw them. So I start to put some gunfire up here into this group up here, and then I see that's not being too effective. I pop up, throw some rockets in there, and that does neutralize this group up here on the hill. But at this point, we still have these guys that I never saw, and they never really got engaged on us. And we also had this just little random one soldier that was probably just kind of hidden behind some cover and never really got engaged by the BTRs that rolled in. So that's why we never got the mission complete. But I mean, that's a pretty acceptable outcome as far as I'm concerned. We did lose, I suppose, one. No, I take that back. The one that I was seeing that got taken out right there was the ZU-23. So we didn't even lose any of our forces as they were going into the town, other than the two that were taken out initially before we even entered the mission. So I can't complain about the results. Using the benefit of almighty hindsight, especially in light of having the TACVIEW and having the external views as I was cutting this together, a person could say that I was a little bit slow in getting my aircraft engaged. I was kind of going back and forth between this area up here and this area down here in real time. I mean, I think you would agree that there wasn't a whole lot more I could do if you can't see these guys and see what to shoot at. I mean, all you can do is what I eventually ended up doing, and that's just fire up there at what the other guys were firing at and eventually get it suppressed to the point where there's nothing left. But yeah, like I said, I could second guess myself and say I should have picked these guys up, but even while cutting this together and putting the external views together, I never did see these guys, or this guy down here in the town. So yeah, I'm definitely not going to complain about the way things went right there. And then at that point, I stuck around for a few more minutes and then egressed because I was, among other things, low on fuel. So that is how that went. We both made it back, and I probably pushed the fuel issue a little bit further than I should have gone. Granted, I was not that far away, and that's what kind of worries me here, was that, I mean, that was, maybe a 5-10 minute flight around there, and it was all that I could do to make it back to base with that fuel stand. I'm not sure exactly how far 2 was down on his fuel level, but that's kind of to be expected. I didn't take a full load of fuel. I only took 50% because it was a high altitude mission. As I noted in the briefing, that would give me better performance, and that's how I was able to easily peek over and crest the terrain without really overstressing the engine at all. But in either case, I'll take it, no matter what was left over up here in the target area, and gladly move on to the next mission. So it hasn't seemed to be that challenging as far as air defenses so far. Scattered AAA and small arms is what we've been up against. So once some more dedicated air defense systems start to be the threat that we're up against, I'm not sure exactly if we're going to have it go this easy, but we'll see. So that's it for this edition. Thanks for checking it out. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.